Today we're going to be talking about Borderlands 3 and if it's still worth your time and money in 2025. With Borderlands 4 right around the corner, I know a lot of you guys are probably hesitant on picking up Borderlands 3. So we're going to talk about some good and some bad things so that you can kind of come to a good conclusion on whether or not you want to give this game a shot before the fourth one comes out. So just jumping straight into it, I will say that this game has a lot of content, guys. You are going to be able to sink your teeth into this game for at least a good 200 or 300 hours before you're really starting to run out of stuff to do. The game not only has a decent amount of girth just off the vanilla base game, not counting the DLCs, but if you add on the DLCs, you're adding on dozens and dozens of hours of gameplay. And I mean, between fighting bandits, to cowboys, to mutated cultists, to loader bots, to literally being inside of a schizo bandit's head in one of the DLCs, there's a lot of content and a lot of variety going on here. I know a lot of people say that they don't like it as much as the second game and the replayability is not there, but even not talking about replayability, even just assuming you're doing one solid playthrough, this game has a lot of stuff to get into. It's got tons of side quests, tons of stuff going on for it. They even recently, well, somewhat recently, came out with a good quality of life change where you could instantly sell loot when you picked it up. So you can go into your settings, change the quality of the loot from anywhere from white rarity all the way up to purple. You can insta sell it. So instead of picking it up, going in your inventory and having to sell it at a vending machine later, when you pick up an item set to whatever rarity you have it on, that rarity and under will instantly be sold when you pick it up. Now, again, I know a lot of people hated on Borderlands 3 and its story and its antagonist, saying that it was really boring and left a lot to be desired. But I do feel like a lot of people compare it way too heavily to the likes of Borderlands 2, in which, like, it's super hard to beat, dude. They struck gold with Borderlands 2. It's going to be impossible for them to come out with, you know, an antagonist better than Handsome Jack. Everybody loves Handsome Jack. He was the perfect antagonist for the game and probably going to be the best antagonist in the entire series, hands down, at least in my opinion. But again, I feel like people hold Borderlands 3 to this really, really high standard because of the great game that we had before it. But honestly, I feel like if you guys really just take a step back and look, especially if you compare it to something like Wonderlands, I feel like Borderlands 3 is a significantly better game than a lot of people make it out to be. And while I do agree with some things, like that they should have had DLC Vault Hunters, I still do think they made some solid choices, and overall it was a pretty decent game. Don't worry, this list isn't all good things about Borderlands 3. There are some negative things coming up, but on the good side of things, another reason why you should play this game in 2025 is just to bridge that gap to Borderlands 4, because with it being only a couple months away now, right around that corner, you do want to make sure you're up to date on the story and the lore and everything from 3 to 4, because I can almost guarantee there's going to be references, there's going to be things talked about, there's going to be little jokes and whatnot poking at Borderlands 3 that if maybe you haven't played it in a long time, or maybe you haven't played it at all, you're not going to completely understand. And trust me, with some of those jokes, it's almost like being a part of an inside joke. You do not want to be left in the dark. It's way more fun and funny to understand what they're talking about. So it's just another reason amongst many, but to at least play the vanilla main story for Borderlands 3, at least playing through it one time before the fourth game comes out, is never a bad idea. This goes for pretty much any game ever that's getting a sequel. It's almost always a good idea to make sure you've at least somewhat recently played through the previous game before, because the majority of games, they're always going to throw out those references and nudges and stuff towards their previous game. So yet another huge reason to get into Borderlands 3 is the modding. Now, while the modding might not be quite as extensive as it was for Borderlands 2, with Borderlands 2 being a significantly older game, Borderlands 3 still does have some really, really cool mods and a lot of really good overhaul mods. I played at least a few of them on my channel if you wanted to go check out those streams or whatnot to maybe see some gameplay of them. But it does have some very, very good overhaul mods that add in a lot of content, new little areas, new bosses, new items, new rarities, new, like, all kinds of stuff. Overhauling character skill trees completely. There's mods that completely revamp characters altogether and change their skills. There's tons and tons of mods for you to explore and mess with here, and the game honestly is relatively easy to mod. It's really not that hard. I went from having no idea what I was doing to watching like maybe 1 or 2 couple-minute YouTube tutorials and loading my game up with mods. Like, it really took me no longer than maybe 15 to 30 minutes of messing around with, and I had zero idea what I was doing. So it's fairly easy to mod the game, and the mods are quite plentiful and accessible. I would say it's a very good experience to mod Borderlands 3. It's not hard and complicated at all. One of my final good points on Borderlands 3 and why you should play it, along with bridging the gap and all the content and all the hours that you have to sink your teeth into, especially with the mods and all that. It is a very fairly priced game when on sale. Of course, with the 4th game coming out right around the corner, there's no way in hell you would catch me paying full price for this game, but it goes on sale a lot, and you can grab even like the super deluxe edition of this game a lot of the time for like $10 on Steam. All you have to do is keep your eye out, add it on your wish list, and you'll get an email when it's on sale, but it goes on sale a lot, so you can grab this game for super cheap with all of the DLC included. And at that point, dude, you're trading like $10 for hundreds and hundreds of hours of potential playtime and entertainment. So why the hell not? You know, I think it's very fairly priced, and I do think it's cool of them to put this game on sale as much as they do. Getting into the negative side of Borderlands 3, there are a couple little nitpicky things that I'm going to pick at. One of them being, as I said before, it definitely does not have as good a replayability as something like Borderlands 2. I honestly can't even quite put my tongue on what it is, but I have way more time in Borderlands 2 than I do in 3, and for some reason I just find myself hitting a wall with 3 way sooner than I do with 2. I couldn't tell you exactly what it is, but most of the community knows exactly what I'm talking about, and that replayability just doesn't seem to be there. And I'm not sure if it's because of the lack of characters, where Borderlands 2 had those 2 additional characters, which adds for at least 2 or 3 additional playthroughs per character, so it's way more entertainment going on, as well as that game having as much, if not more, content than Borderlands 3. But regardless, whatever it is, there's something about 3 where once you play through it like once or twice on one character, you're kind of just done with that character, and you don't feel like a super hard drive to continue going. At least I don't, and I know a lot of the community doesn't. Again, there is a lot of content to play through on that 1 or 2 character playthrough, but still, once you hit that wall's hit, and you're not going to really want to come back to the game for a while. And that is a big negative, but remember guys, I did say there's a lot of content in this game. Like, you're probably going to sink a good 100+ hours into one character at least before you're ready to hit that wall. The next negative thing I'm going to quickly talk about is the terms of service. I know that somewhat recently, towards the end of June, 2K changed their terms of service to make you agree to some outlandish shit, and a lot of people got really mad about that and even review bombed the games on Steam. You can look more deeply into the changes of terms of service on your own if you want to. I'm not going to get crazy into that one, but I do just want to throw that out there. They basically force you to accept these very harsh terms of service, or else you can't play their game, which to a lot of people, they consider it to be a violation of their privacy. But again, you can look more into that if you want to. I just wanted to throw that out there as something to be aware of. Another negative I want to talk about is the lack of characters. I mentioned this earlier in the video as well, but they got a lot of backlash in Borderlands 3 for refusing to add DLC characters and giving some stupid excuses as to why, saying they wanted to focus more on the 4 main characters and their background and yada yada, but then proceeded to not really give you a whole lot more background on those characters while still not adding in the DLC characters like everybody wanted. They did get a lot of backlash for that, and again, that does kind of hinder replayability because that's 2 less playthroughs bare minimum that they would have gotten had they added those 2 DLC characters like everybody wanted, which I still don't really understand why they did it, because in Borderlands 2 and the pre-sequel, the only 2 games in the Borderlands franchise that did have these 2 extra DLC Vault Hunters both did phenomenally well on that end. Everybody loved that change. Everybody loved the 2 additional characters. So I have no idea why they would revert from that. That is just a negative. You are going to be restricted to the 4 base game characters, and that is it. They did add in an extra skill tree for each of them, but I don't really think that makes up for the lack of 2 entire characters. Nonetheless, they did at least do something, but still, that's a pretty big negative, and a lot of people complain that they just wanted those extra characters and didn't get them. This is my last negative for the game, really, but it can be solved with mods. But if you're on console and you're not able to fix this issue, this is kind of a negative, at least in my opinion. Some people hate it, some people love it, so you could be one of the people that enjoys this, but I do not like how much significantly more common all of the drop rates are for Borderlands 3, nor do I like the overcrowded loot pools in Borderlands 3. They can just make it really hard to farm for one specific item, despite the drop chance being pretty high in a lot of cases. But overall, when you get especially into endgame and you get into those mayhem levels and stuff, you're gonna see a stupid amount of world drops and just drops in general from everything in the entire game, which just kind of makes legendaries in general feel significantly less special and meaningful. And a lot of the time it's like more weird if you're not getting a bunch of legendary drops than if you do. Again, to some people they might enjoy that kind of thing, but I know to the majority of the OG Borderlands community, we kind of like the grind. We kind of like that super rare drop chance of getting like a super cool item that actually it feels like it means something. It's not just like, oh yeah, I've seen 18 of those in the past 10 minutes. It's like, holy fuck, I just got a drop. This is nuts. And you're like actually pumped. Sometimes, depending on how rare the drop is, you even get a little surge of adrenaline. But in this game, that's pretty much completely gone. Again, if you're playing on PC, you can download mods that are going to significantly fix this problem. But if you are a console player, you're kind of just screwed, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. Getting to my final conclusion, I will say, assuming you guys get this game on sale, it is absolutely worth playing in 2025. I do still think it's a good game. I do still think it's a lot of fun, especially if you have a buddy or two to play with. Even solo, this game's a blast, but it's going to be even more so enjoyable if you have at least 1 or 2 people to play with. And again, if you can catch it on sale, I think it's more than worth the like $10, $15 price tag to get the Super Deluxe Edition and get absolutely everything for the game. It's going to get you bare minimum 100 plus hours of gameplay, but you'll probably find yourself putting in even more than that if you start diving into playing different characters and stuff. But again, if you are excited for Borderlands 4, you can't wait for Borderlands 4. This is what I even did recently, and you just want to play something Borderlands, I would recommend jumping back into it. And if you're a veteran player, maybe try a different run. Maybe try a challenge run, or if you're on PC, try a mod you've never tried. Do something that'll help you scratch that itch while you're still waiting for Borderlands 4 around the corner. That being said, guys, I'm going to wrap the video up here. If you agree with what I have to say, do let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know if you disagree. And if you liked the video, consider dropping a like and a subscription. That would mean the world to me. We are super close to our goal of 500 subscribers, so help me get there, please. And yeah, love you, bye.